unmute. Yo guys, yo guys. It is Old Man G here, back again for our deadline day stream. Basically, I'm joined by the amazing Tom and Jonas. Thanks for joining me, Tom. Obviously, 30 minutes to go before the deadline day. I expect United aren't going to do any business, but as you can see, the biggest news to come out in the last, I think, 10-15 minutes is Jadon Sancho to Chelsea on a loan deal obligation to buy is confirmed. Fabrizio, Ornstein, etc. have all said it. And I mean, we'll get into it, but remember, if you're new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnitedX and smash the notification button. Tom, thanks for joining me today. How are you doing? How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm not doing so bad, G, and I hope yourself's doing well. Busy day, hectic day, a lot going on. A couple of surprises has kind of been thrown out there, obviously, with a couple of different deals, maybe at other football clubs. But yeah, we'll cover a wide variety. And if you've got any questions or anybody, feel free to put them in the comments, and G will pop them up as and when we can, and we'll try and answer them as best we can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, obviously, while we are talking about Sancho and United-related affairs, so we will talk about other players and things as well, especially stuff that starts to come in as the transfer deadline approaches in the next just over 20 minutes. But yeah, big up a Tom in the chat who says Sancho bomb. Like this was in the past. It sounds like there was some disagreement regarding McTominay between the hierarchy and Ten Hag. McTominay played the last game, which explains his comments of wanting to keep him. That is true. That is true. Whereas Sancho did not play, and it looks the intention of hierarchy Ten Hag was to try and sell him. Yeah, I certainly think there was some, Ten Hag even said he had mixed feelings about McTominay going. I doubt he'll say he's got mixed feelings about Sancho going. That much is clear. So it will definitely be interesting to see the outcome of this whole of this whole affair. I think, I'll give my thoughts initially about the whole Sancho thing, and then we'll move. I'll let you speak, Tom. But I think I also have mixed feelings about Sancho, about this whole deal. I think that on the positive, it's clear that there was a breakdown between Sancho and Ten Hag. It's clear that even though he came back, reports he wants to stay, but he got left out. And I don't know whether he was unhappy about that and pushing to move and different things like that. So I don't know whether his mindset was that he just thought he would start, and he didn't want to fight for his place, which I find a bit ironic. And I'll get to a bit later because, I don't still understand this move by Chelsea, to be honest. Chelsea needed a striker. So far, they've not got it in Osimhen or Tony. And they've just signed another winger, effectively, where I feel like they've got a lot. So, and arguably, it'd probably be harder, I think, anyway, to get into the Chelsea front three than it's into the Manchester United front three currently. But as we said, maybe those break down with him and Ten Hag, moved on. That's fine. And I guess you want to get rid of that toxicity potentially. But my concerns of this whole deal are, one, the fact that especially with United want to get back into Champions League football, which we're in the Europa League, and I'm going to do a post a video on that probably tomorrow regarding the reaction to the draw. But looking at it, you'd like to think that hopefully Manchester United should be favourites to be winning that competition. So that is an option there. But still, given the competitiveness, you want to make a charge for top four. And the reality is that you're giving Jadon Sancho to a rival. You're also giving Jadon Sancho to a rival, strengthening a rival potentially. Not to mention the fact that with this, the questions are, are Chelsea, and I'll obviously ask you this Tom, are Chelsea going to be covering Jadon Sancho's full wages? Are we subsidizing the wages while he's on loan? Because they better be paying a lot. And then obviously the obligation, we're hearing reports that maybe it might be only 25 million, which for me is peanuts compared to what we saw. I thought it would be at least 40. 25 million is almost like robbery, So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot where I'm kind of thinking, I mean, man, you take that loss, considering the fact that he's 24, he's only 24 years old. He's still a young, in quote, and is going into his prime. And and you're sending him to rival for basically dirt cheap. And it's going to look very bad if Sancho, who's not had any injury problems, I mean, he had the mental health thing and was away, he's not even injury problems, and he goes to Chelsea, and he cooks, because then you're kind of like, I mean, as Muhammad Ali says, United Shams, when it comes to selling, we always get robbed. But Chelsea, it makes no sense. 25 million, we pay 60 million for Mount Joe. Now, the only thing I would say, in fairness, is that the hierarchy wasn't there. The hierarchy has changed. So let's be clear. The deals were done by two different um structures. And in fairness, I would be I strongly doubt if Ineos were there last season. I don't think Ineos would have done the Mount deal. I don't think they would have done the Mount deal. Or at the very least, they would have thought, hang on a minute, does it make sense to spend 60 million pounds on a player who's got 1 year left on his deal? I could, because it's clear to me, at least with this transfer window, that, because again, I think had it been last season under the guys, I don't think McTominay, for example, would have been sold. I don't think that would have happened, But this window, you can clearly see that from the signs that we made, clearly Ten Hag has had an input, because there's obviously a lot of players he's worked with in Delit and Matswari. But I don't think that Lenny Euro was his signing. So there is clearly there's clearly an Ineos influence, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you can blame Ineos on the whole Mount thing, because I don't think Ineos would have bought Mount for 60 million in the first instance. And you also got to remember that with Ineos, that you can see fundamentally Ineos are wanting to basically change the wage structure as well. You can see that we're trying to get rid of our highest waging players, because the likes of McTominay, Lindelof, and Ericsson, I think, their contracts all expire, I think, at the end of this season. So they're gone. So you're only really left with Casemiro. So all the players, all the potentially, in quote, Deadwood players, or you'd see as Deadwood players, are basically gone by the end of this transfer. Because I would suspect Maguire isn't going to get a new contract. Neither is Lindelof, and neither is Ericsson. So they're going to go. So whatever you say about Ineos, at the end of the day, you could arguably make the case that they basically cleared out the Deadwood potentially in the space of one season. That's actually incredible, considering the Glazers couldn't do that. Yes, they've taken loss, etc., but when it comes to the costs that will be made by saving wages, and also the amount that we've made, obviously, because hopefully I'd hope that United's FFP is good, considering how many academy players we sold this. I mean, I'll ask about that again, Tom, because I think very quite a bit. So Elite Baller says Sancho would rather join a direct rival than fight for his place. Doesn't care about Manchester United or the fans. Well, this is the thing, but this is the thing. I just want to finish my point before I head to Tom, see what he thinks. Is that and obviously get your questions in for those who are watching. My thing about this whole deal to Chelsea, for me, is that it doesn't make sense. And I had the conversation with a guy on Chelsea Twitter about this, and he was like, but they're rotating different things. Like right now, you have essentially an all-out attacking team, which could work if you're going to be like a Liverpool situation, but defensively, you're still not good. And you will be punished against better teams in that respect. But more importantly, you have a player in Sancho who didn't want to compete for his place at United with arguably a weaker forward line, and now you're going to Chelsea, who basically have 8 players for 3 positions. Chelsea's lineup in the last game, I think, was Mudryk, Jackson, and Palmer as their front 3. That was their front 3. And they bought Mudryk for 100 million. Obviously, people forget about. So you can't just bench or just keep on the bench 100 million player. Well, I guess you can dig it with Lukaku, I guess, but still, he's there. He's not going anywhere. Well, he's not going anywhere because he's on a 7-8 year blood pact, I think, at Chelsea. So you have those three. Then on the bench, you have Madueke. You also bought João Felix. You bought Neto as well. And I think they have who they got? Yeah, João Felix, Neto, Madueke, Sancho now be coming in. And I'm forgetting one other player who they got as a wing. I'm trying to remember. I thought they had another one. I can't remember. Oh, big up, Mohammed. Thank you for joining the members club, man. Thank you for joining the members. I appreciate it, man. Like, it's funny enough, I was thinking about I'm posting a members video about doing some my reactions to the Champions League draw and what. So expect member only videos, man. But I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for joining the members club, man. Thank you so much. FB says, Adios, today we are released from the Sancho cult. And so I don't think we'll be released from the Sancho cult. FB, because I would speak, because this is the thing. If Sancho starts to cook, and if Sancho does things, there's still gonna be a lot of, well, we were right or we were wrong, etc. At the end of the day, I think it's fundamentally, with the way that the situation is, it's best for both parties. But just for me, I just don't get the deal from a Chelsea perspective. I get it from a Juve perspective, because they let Chiesa go, so that makes sense to me. They need a winger, they want to replace Chiesa, etc. But Chelsea, I don't get it, because they have, like I said, 7 or 8. I'm still trying to remember the 8 thingy play. It should come back to me. Who is it they have? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, and that's not even to mention the young players that they had, that forwards that they have. You know, I still want to talk to you, Tom, about the whole David Washington thing, because that for me smells of fraud. You know, how does I don't know, how does Chelsea buy for Washington for, what was it, 10-50 million, and then go and then potentially sell him for 20-25, despite only playing for 25 minutes to a club that they know? That's crazy, you know. But yeah, fundamentally this is that I think that, you know, but also, by the way, we signed ugarte, that's good. But fundamentally, what I'm saying is that I think it was best for both parties that Sancho left. And hopefully it means that, you know, there can be some sort of, like, because at the end of the day now, what I would say is that Ten Hag now has no excuse. So there's no, I mean, aside from like cataclysmic injuries, you know, Ten Hag doesn't have an excuse. He doesn't have an excuse. Like, you have to play well, you have to play ball, you have to sort of, if United don't at the very least secure Champions League football next season, for me, Ten Hag has to go. Now that could be, I can accept a Europa League and fifth or sixth place. I can accept that, because at the end of the day, being third with no trophy, just in my opinion, is worse than being fifth or sixth and getting a trophy. Like, that's my, people can aim at that, but at the end of the day, trophies are what matter in football. I don't, you know, I'd want more trophies to sort of say we've got trophies, as opposed to I came third multiple seasons, you know. But if he doesn't secure Champions League football in some way, he's gone, because he's been backed. He's got his players now. You know, it's been slide over Sancho. There's no excuses now. Like, you've got to do. And if you're going to pick the likes of Rashford, who are not great, who are your favorites, etc., and it doesn't work, you know, we'll see what happens. Before I go to Tom, let me just quickly read the rest of the comments. And like I said, big up man for being a member. If you want to be a member of the channel, please subscribe. Obviously, more members we can, the more members we have, the more content I'll be able to produce and to support the channel. So thank you guys so much. But yeah, I'm certainly making some member-only videos and more so. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Oh, and join us for the Liverpool watch-along as well. I'll be doing a United-Liverpool watch-along. I'm actually scared, because the last time I did that, United held 7. So I am a little bit worried about doing the watch-along this time, because when I did that last time, like it was bad. It was bad. I was shocked. So let's hopefully not that time. Epi, we no longer need to hear he needs overlapping fullbacks, he needs technical players, he needs to play on the left, he needs players on the right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, with the whole excuses. Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like I said, I just don't. The big thing for me with Sancho is just that, is that I don't. The Chelsea front line for me will be harder to break into than the United one because he's not a striker. Nico is the striker. Unless Chelsea plan on doing a false nine situation, which I don't think Maresca will do. He's already said he's their striker. So that number 9 position is out. He's not going to drop Cole Palmer. So that position is out. So you only got one position. Really, if you think about it, like if you think that he's not going to drop, yeah, they'll rotate, but really and truly, the first team starter is going to be those two are going to be there. So, and you bought João Felix already. You got Neto. You got Madueke who's cooking. So I generally don't get how Sancho, like he's like, is he? How's he going to be a starter? Like if he's a starter on the right, and I'm not even talking about even Modric. If he's a starter on the right, that means you got to drop. That means the others. So the point I'm ultimately trying to make is that, like, at the end of this season at Chelsea, one of those attackers is going to push for a move. One or two of those attackers are going to push for it because they're going to be like, we want regular game time and we can't get it. Oh yeah, I remember the player now, Nkuku. That was it. Yeah, I was like, there's another player. There's another player. It's Nkuku. So that's 8. So how does that work? Eight players for eight forwards for 3 positions. Like it's crazy. Chelsea fans are not liking the transfer since Osimhen. Well, see, this is the thing. I had a feeling. How would you rate this transfer window? What would you do in Jan? We'll come back to that, Mohammed. Bro. Me and we'll come back to that. Because we need to talk about that. Of course, we will still get the occasional look. He is cooking at Chelsea fans. Oh yeah, of course. But to be honest, a lot of the Chelsea fans were saying that Sancho was finished when he was at United. So it'll be easy to find receipts for them, to be honest. Sancho's on 300k a week in Manchester United. This is the thing. You know, this is what I'm saying. It's like I hope that if Chelsea have taken on his wages, or at least a substantial part of his wages, then happy days. Big up Rob, man. Hope you're doing well, man. Big up Rob and Chat, man. Big up, thanks for coming in and joining our transfer day deadline. Well, it closes in 5 minutes. I mean, I don't know whether there's anything coming. I doubt Manchester United have done anything. I don't know if there's anything big. I'm just going to quickly, I don't know if you've heard anything big from other clubs happening, Tom, at all, or United's window's probably finished, but
yeah, only about the Raheem Sterling to Arsenal is
that been
pretty
confirmed?
much agreed. Yeah, well, they've just done it as a straight loan. No option to buy, no obligation, just a straight loan, 50-50 coverage of wages. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yep, I see. So yeah, Sterling to Arsenal. That's interesting. Straight loan. Okay. Crystal Palace have signed Eddie Nketiah. I think that was agreed for a while back. Fair enough. Obviously the Victor Osimhen deal is off.
Yeah.
Geez, this is weird. The Osimhen deal is strange because it's like no agreement with Chelsea. If nothing happens from Saudi next 3 days, Osimhen will stay at Napoli, but he's not going to be part of the first team squad. Relation completely broken. Jeez, strange. Very, very strange. I think Osimhen overplayed his hand, to be honest. I think he generally thought that there were going to be loads of people around Europe begging for his signature. And he could demand, because I got the impression it was like, I want wages, I want a buy. Like he had option. People like maybe get a loan, maybe reduce wages, but it seemed that he wants everything on his terms. And and at the end of the day, if you're gone,
it's not just that, G, though. The Osimhen deal, it comes from a point of last night. There was an agreement in place with Al Ahly and Napoli to buy him straight outright, and it wasn't like this was like a gentleman's agreement. This was paperwork done, dusted, signed, sealed. There was everything there. He just had to have a medical, fly over to Saudi Arabia, do the interviews and his PR commercial activities, which again, the Saudi Arabian deadline closes in a couple of days. So there's plenty of time for that.
True,
but what his agency have done, whereas they've not done him any favours, is they've agreed all these terms. They've put it on the back burner. They know that the European deadline was today. They knew he was going to be the superstar who was going to be on the market today. Out of all of Europe's top players, he was the one that was going to be the big deal, which if it come through for him to go to Chelsea, that he was going to be the showcase player, probably for the whole window, not just on deadline day. And again, it's come to it now where Napoli had all of it signed, sealed and delivered with Al Ahly. Chelsea have come in. They're the only European reinforcements that's come over the hill and actually gave him a lifeline if he wants to stay in European football. But they can't offer him the same wage package that the Saudis have offered him. They can't offer him the same bonus commitments that Al Ahly are going to offer him. But the difference is they can offer him European football. They can offer him stability in playing within European football and potentially a progression to play in the Champions League again. That's what they can offer him. And there is that vacancy at Chelsea to play number 9. So at the same point, Al Ahly looked at that and they've been unhappy about it. They said, no, we've struck a deal. We've made agreements. What's going on? We're not going to just play second fiddle while you wait for a deadline to come through. And then in the last, I think it was 5 hours ago, Napoli, as president, has demanded more money from the Saudis, even though everything was agreed in contracts and paperwork last night. They now want more money for Osimhen. And Al Ahly have pretty much said to them, we struck a deal, we have paperwork finding of it, that's the deal. It's you take it or you leave it. And that's effectively where the Saudis have sat on the fence and said, we're not going to be pushed about and made for mugs. And Osimhen has not helped himself out in that case. Napoli are not helping the situation. And Chelsea, from all of it, from what I can say with Chelsea with this deal, they've fumbled the bag, is probably what is the best way that I can say it. They've fumbled the bag because they've come for this player far too late in the window. If they didn't have this agreement with the Saudi Arabian club, they maybe had a little bit of leverage where they could have took it all the way to 11 o'clock tonight. But they didn't. So effectively what I would say is that Chelsea have fumbled the bag. They've come to the party very, very late to try and sign this player when they could have tried to wrap this up a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a couple of days ago, before this deadline. They haven't done. They've had no agreement in place. And the terms of what between Chelsea and Napoli, Chelsea were happy to pay top dollar to bring Osimhen to Chelsea from Napoli. They were happy to agree a similar price close to what Al Ahly had agreed last night. But the difference was Osimhen's demands for what he wanted, Chelsea can't reach those demands. Even Al Ahly, they didn't pay what Osimhen exactly wanted, but they paid just underneath what he wanted. And they just basically said, well, we'll give you more incentive bonuses, which makes up for why we're not going to pay you more money straight away. It's a very big financial package that he's offered himself up for on the market. And European clubs, this is why not a lot of clubs have come in for him. A lot of European clubs can't afford those packages that he wants. And it's not just Osimhen's wages. There's all this baggage with agent fees. His family want a cut in on the deal. Then you've got, I think he's got a manager as well who wants to cut in on the deal. There's all these people that need paying in and around him. It's kind of like a Haaland 2.0, where his dad wanted paying, his agent wanted paying, his management wanted paying, Haaland obviously wants paying. There's all these different things that you've got to jump through and all these hoops. And the Osimhen deal is just the same thing.
So I interrupt you, Tom. Obviously, it's 11 o'clock, so now the transfer, the window is closed, guys. The window is closed for those obviously who are watching. It is officially closed for the summer, at least until the January one opens up again. The winter transfer, but you know, we United don't tend to do much business in January. So I am going to come back to your your question, Mohammed, actually about how do you rate it, because it's officially closed. I'm just going to quickly read some comments, and then we'll just quickly we'll come to this question. Okay. Let me just quickly finish up the comments here. Epi says, RDS, we got something at the Old Trafford for the Arnie Slot Army. I hope so, buddy. I hope so, buddy, because I don't need another spanking. Like we did beat Liverpool. Well, no, we drew against Liverpool last season at Old Trafford, but defensively again. RDS, that's what I mean. He's happy to sit in the bench because Chelsea have too many attack. But this is why I understand. Like, is he? I don't know. Like this is the thing. It's just like it's a different story. If anyway, I'm not going to go into it. So, but we'll go into it later. So, but at the end of the day, for me, it just doesn't make sense that you are like, because at the end of the day, I always said when this whole saga happened that had Sancho not said anything with the old Anthony de Bagel, he basically would have been the first choice right back. Sorry, right winger. Then this whole thing happened, and then Anthony happened. So you were basically down 2 right wings for most of last season for different reasons. Now, because of Ahmad's emergence, because Ahmad, is actually a sensible footballer, and arguably, to be honest, has done more in a Manchester United shirt than Sancho has. I'll say it right now, he has. I'm trying to think of a memorable Sancho moment at United. It's just when he sat down Milner and Alisson to score the goal at Old Trafford against Liverpool. Ahmad is the one that basically scored the winning goal against Liverpool in the FA Cup final that got us in part towards the FA Cup final and helped us get a trophy, which is for me is more significant than just a league game. It's just Ahmad costs 15 million or 20 million or whatever it is, and Sancho costs 70 something. So yeah, I don't know. Sid says, big up, gents, the content. Quick question for the new signing. Sekou Kone. Is there plans for first team? So we're going to come up to that as part of the overall how do you rank the transfer window thing, Sid. So yeah, we'll definitely come to that question. Zotang Tiu says, disgrace. I'm assuming you're referring to Sancho. I mean, like I said, I don't really know what the alternative is, because I know a lot of people saying it's bad, but what's the alternative? He wanted to leave. So it's I think if he didn't want to leave, of course the club would have kept him, but he wanted to leave, and they weren't going to sack Ten Hag. So there's nothing that can be done. You need to get someone to get it, and the reality is there weren't that many. Let's be real, and I keep on saying this a lot of time. People want to be real, is that, and it's similar with Osimhen as well, is that at the end of the day, if the players themselves were willing to take wage cuts, then there's no shortage of teams that'd be willing to come and come in for them. No shortage. The stumbling block. I mean, look, Manchester United went down to 25 million as a buy-in for Chelsea. So the issue is not, in my opinion, it was the transfer fee. The issue was Sancho and Osimhen and all of them don't want to take significant wage cuts. If they wanted to reduce it, Sancho's on 300k a week at United. He probably didn't want to go down to any lower than maybe 200k. Any lower than that. If he goes to 100 or maybe even 75, of course there's clubs that are willing to go for him. Of course, this can be resolved easily, but he's not going to. So at the end of the day, yes, we can talk about football and stuff. It's about money. At the end of the day, it's about money. Yeah, we'll come to that. Do you guys think that our business is done now too, or do you think we could buy again in January? So we can do top striker left back. You're right, Rob. We'll come back to that as well with the whole sort of how do you rate the transfer window. So thanks. Big up, 26 people watching, guys. Like the video, and subscribe if you're new. And get your questions as well. Big up SSB says, yo, what's up? I know this is a United channel transfer view, but this Osimhen as well. We actually we've been talking about it with Tom. The Martin reports Osimhen will be silent until January and Conte will bench him. Damn. We've literally just been talking about how he's basically screwed himself over. Osimhen should just go to Saudi for a year. He's got till September 2nd. That's when Saudi transfer. For me, because the thing is, going to Saudi doesn't actually ruin players' careers anymore. Like, there's plenty of people going to Saudi. Like, even if Antonio going to Saudi, if he's going, he's still going to play for England. Like, it doesn't change anything really. So I'd recommend he goes, because if he doesn't play and he's rots on the bench, like, the only thing I guess that it would do is that it might humble him. So if he wants to leave on in January, he will. I don't know. It's difficult. Conte is on drugs for picking Lukaku over Osimhen. Yeah, but Lukaku's ego is sky high right now. Well, that's true. So let's go. Because a lot of people. Let's go back to Mohammed's question, and this kind of addresses all the other questions that FB and also Rob said. In what? How do you rate the transfer window, and what would you do in a January transfer window? So I'll go with you, Tom, first. You know, because obviously you obviously informed us and the community about Ineos and what they're doing and how they plan things. I mean, I will start by saying that I definitely think that there's been a clear difference with how Ineos have run things transfer wise and how Merta and everyone has. This has been a professionally run window, whatever you say. But yeah, how would you rate this transfer window? And do you think Manchester United with the way that Ineos work, do you think that they'll be doing business in January? And if so, like, what do you think would happen? Is there talks of, like, say, addressing the left back situation or the striker situation, for example?
Yeah, I'd probably rank it probably close to maybe an 8 if you had to rate it maybe out of 10. I don't think it's the perfect window because I do still think that there is that part that is missing with this squad, and you could argue that that might be another fullback. I would have personally made the argument of that even if McTominay didn't end up going to Napoli and you brought in Ugarte, I don't necessarily think swapping out Ugarte for McTominay for Ugarte, like for like, is going to make a lot of a difference to your squad. Because the only difference that I think it's going to make is you've got a first team player that is going to start, and I do think Ugarte is going to improve Manchester United. The problem is when one of those midfielders blows out, like you've just seen Mount blow out at the moment now with an injury, you're looking at the bench and you're starting to think, okay, we've still got Eriksen here. There's not really an improvement there. McTominay's no longer there anymore as that squad player, which he was last season. Fred's no longer here anymore. You struggle. You don't really have much options other than, say, if you brought Toby Collier into the squad and you gave him a go, or for example, if you bring in Sekou Kone now, but they want to steadily graduate him in to the squad. So there is a little.
Sorry, just to interrupt on that one because it comes to the point. Sekou Kone, because I was reading online that, like, he's not, even though he's only 16, he wasn't brought in as like an academy player type of thing. Is there is there plans to introduce him into the first team squad? Is that what we're doing with him? So I'll be honest, I just thought, oh, this is going to be another academy signing. But it sounds like no, we want to really incorporate him. So could you tell us a bit more about that? Sorry.
Yeah, so the way that this deal, I've understood it, it was kind of similar to what United did with Pelestri and Amad Diallo a couple of years ago, only they didn't pay as much of a fee. The money that they paid for this kid, they've paid it as an undisclosed figure. When it's an undisclosed figure for a player who's either 18 years old or under the age of 18, it normally comes between £3 to £5 million. That's the way that they sort of bracket at. So for this kid to come in at that rate, there's clearly an understanding of that Manchester United sees something in his potential. He's a Mali international. He had a brilliant African Cup of Nations, as far as I'm aware, for such a young player at that tournament, in comparison to when you're playing against experienced, proven players in such a tournament, the likes of your Osimhens, your Koulibaly's, your Sadio Mane's, your veterans of those sort of competitions. That was his first competition, and he was playing brilliantly in midfield. And the one thing that I understand with this signing, this was a directed signing from Jason Wilcox, who, as we've understood and we've been over before, was the head of academy and youth development at Manchester City. And he linked youth players at City from taking them to the academy, finding them across Europe and bringing them to Manchester City, or even just off of the council, as I call it anyway, the council fields in Manchester. And you go to watch an under-11s or an under-12s game and you pick the best young players and you scout them from an academy age. They've basically done this with this kid, but the difference in behind it is Jason Wilcox looks at this kid and he sees that he will be a top player. But you have to get this player now while he's not already in Europe, because he will go to Europe at some point because a club will take a risk on him. And for £3 to £5 million between that undisclosed figure in bracket is not a bad figure to make if it doesn't work out. Because if it doesn't work out, you can still then try and sell him on, and you might get your money back, or you might get, a little bit less, but you can add a sell-on clause, and then if he turns out to the player that you thought he would, you'll make your money back anyway later on. So it's a small investment for a bigger reward. But the difference is, from what I understand with Sekou Kone, was there was 4 or 5 clubs that were looking at him, but they wanted to let him develop one more year before they were going to bring him over to Europe. 2 of the clubs that were interested in him were in the Premier League. Manchester United was one of them. I think a lot of people might be able to guess who the other club was at the time. Who do you think that was?
Chelsea.
There you go. Didn't take very long. Chelsea was one of the clubs that they was looking at, and Brighton, funnily enough, was one of the clubs. It would have been 12 months prior who had started scouting this kid. So the difference in point is United have got in there. The same thing with Chukwueze Martin. They've got in there before other clubs can take the young players from them. That's the difference. But they're making small investments into these players with the idea of it. And just to answer your second part of your question, will he have first team involvement? My understanding is that Sekou Kone is going to come in. He will primarily be an academy player when he starts, but so long as the season progresses on and he gains match fitness, he will be a part of the first team squad. That's the marketing that they've done it for it. It's very similar to what they did with Palestri and Ahmad. They brought them in, they made an investment into them, albeit it wasn't as big an investment as they did then. But the difference is they're going to stagger the kid in and see if it works out for him. If it doesn't, and they feel like he maybe develop on a loan or something, that's an opportunity that they'll look at in January. But for now, they wanted to get the kid while he was available. Then he come over to Europe, and then in 2 or 3 years' time, you pay £50 million for him. That's the way that they're looking at it. So they're getting in there before another club will come in. And then if they want to sign this player, which they think fits what they best need for the future in midfield, then they've got him for cheap rather now than in a couple of years. And if he turns out to be a brilliant player, what a bit of marketing and a bit of expertise that Jason Wilcox has used there. Because instead of for paying 3 to 5 million, instead of paying 50 million, it's good recruitment from Manchester United, and it's something that's different. And that's where I would say with the Mohammed's question, where he was asking about the window and where it's kind of improved from. I think just that, using your smarts, the expertise of the markets. You've brought him from an African club as well. It's not like you've brought him from South America or, you see all the time that you get kids from Japan come over and give it a go, or the US. So it's something new. It's a different market that they've spread into United. But it's something that if it works out for them, then they've already got a network in there. They've got a point of contact in that region and in that continent where they can scout players from Africa, and they've got an understanding of, okay, we understand the culture, the character of these kids, and we understand how we can embed them in so then they can progress and develop. They've almost then got a pathway to bring kids from that continent if they want to. And I think that's one of the stickling points as to why Brighton have been so successful is they sign kids like this. They take a £3 to £5 million risk on them. If it works out, they get 50 million for them in 3 to 4 years. If it doesn't work out, then you just roll him off.
Or 100 million plus if you're
or
talking
100 million
about
plus, like what they did with Caicedo. This is what I'm saying. But the difference is United have done this now. So in 4 years' time, he might be a £100 million player. But Manchester United won't let him go because he's already at a big football club. They don't have to sign him then. That's the difference.
And also,
he will have first team involvements.
That's good to know because, and also, with potentially Casemiro potentially leaving maybe end of the season, next season, etc. You could potentially have a situation where, where if it does go well and he does become a beast, so that you do have that Casemiro replacement. I know we've obviously got Ugarte. Obviously, we need to see what happens with that, but we'll see what happens. Oh, yep, no problem, Tom. Tom needs to take a call. That's fine. So Tom will be right back. So I will obviously continue the show and just have a general talk about the transfer window. Obviously, it's closed. Big up everyone that's obviously watching as well. Remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Tom will be right back, just taking a call. Sigal says, what happened to Cheetah? That's a good question, actually. That's a good question. I'll ask Tom when he comes back. But Sigal, that's a very good question. Because I've not heard from him. I thought with Chido, I always assumed that he was going to go straight into the academy players anyway. I always thought that was the case, because of the manner which it was kind of like announced and done. I always thought he was going to go straight back into. He was just going to go into the academy and and see what happens, But with Kone, the way that we've announced him is slightly different, and that's why it's interesting that Samuel Lucas basically said, as well as others, oh no, this is a guy whose planning is to go be in the first team. So I'm expecting, if all goes well, and if there's fitness, for him to sort of almost be like an Ahmad in a way, if he's ready, obviously, and with the amount of games that we're having. Because quite frankly, yes, of course, you still got Casemiro there, but if you like, I look at the United Europa League, and I obviously posted a video about it, but United Europa League looks fairly straightforward. If United have qualified and have got top 8 or whatever it is, these are the games that you do give someone like Kone in the midfield a chance to shine. You do give him opportunities to ball out. That's what you do. That's, for me, has always been the benefit of the Europa League and the conference and stuff like that. Is that it's just an opportunity for you to give those young players just a bit more experience. And if they ball hard, then you never know. Eddie, big up Eddie, man. Make sure you support him. Says big up as always, ODS. So I wonder when Sancho will be getting his goal against us like Welbeck did last week. Bad deal. Glazed on Curtis. Can't play me too much. Though, I mean, the thing with Danny Welbeck, the thing with Danny Welbeck, though, you got to understand with Danny Welbeck. Danny Welbeck was incredibly injury prone when he was at United. That was one of the main reasons. I actually always had time for Danny Welbeck, but Welbeck was injured so much, so much, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why he left. And even when he went to Arsenal, he sort of, so I'm not saying that Danny Welbeck's a bad player, but I just feel like he's almost found his place now, because he went to Arsenal, he was okay, but again picked up injuries, and obviously they let him go, So then he went to Brighton and he's found his place, and good for him. This is the thing. Some players, it's not that the players are bad, it's just that United is not their place, and they go to a team. Maybe they don't have as much pressure. The spotlight isn't on them more. They have maybe a better structure in some ways, and they perform. So big up to Welbeck. And for that, guys, come on. Guys, come on. There's 27 people watching, guys. Let's at least get to 20 likes. Come on. If you're watching, this is free content. We've got the journalist, suspected journalist, and Tom, who's obviously who's here as well. This is free content. Come on, like the vid, guys. Like the vid, and subscribe and new. And big up Matthew, man. Big up and Rowan says Williams is happy. So, but as we wait for Tom, I'll personally be honest and say that I would rate. I agree. I would rate this window as an 8 out of 10. Purely because I still think that 8 is 8 high. No, actually, no. I'll go 7. I'll go 7. I'll go 7 out of 10. I'll tell you why. Because I still think that that United, we need a striker and we need a left back, especially a left back, because Shaw is injured. Malassi, we don't know when he's going to coming back, and we're essentially playing with a makeshift left back. And apparently, a left back was buying a left back was a priority at the beginning of this transfer window. Securing a left back was a priority. Why is it that now longer became a priority anymore? We can't keep on using Dallo as a makeshift left back. That can't work. So that part did me, in that yes, okay, Lenny Yoro got injured and we got sent back and all different things, but you know, we needed a left back and we didn't get one. And we also need a striker, in my opinion, where the goal's going to come from. So I still think it's superior to previous Glazer windows, and you can clearly see us trying to move players on high wages. You got to think about the amount that we got from academy players, which probably helps with FFP, which means that we'll be able to spend more in January and in the summer because you let Greenwood go, you let McTominay go, Kwambala, Hannibal, was there anybody else? I think that was it. Yeah, McTominay, Greenwood, Hannibal, Kwambala. I think those were the academy players that we let go. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka left, but he wasn't an academy player. But even from those academy signings, you know, that's still a good, still a good 60, 70 mil in just pure profit, which will obviously help with the FFP situation, you know. And yeah, you're right on Welbeck. Still doesn't feel good when extra stuff against it. No, exactly. Tom United. Tom will be back. Tom was just taking a phone call, so he will be back. He will be back. But so we'll come back to that. So just for those who are tuning in, Tom is just busy taking a phone call, but he will be back soon. Relating to Liverpool game ones, do you think United will get? I won't jinx it. I'll be honest, Eddie. I will not jinx it. I've got no idea what United are going to do. But all I hope is that we don't lose to Liverpool at all. I will take, 4 out of 9 points isn't ideal, but when you got Brighton away and Liverpool in your first 3, I'll take it. So I will take 4 points out of 9, but I can't take 3 out of 9. We've got to get something from this game. Ideally, we win. If we get 4, okay, fine. I'll take that because I know that we'll pick up points playing to, Southampton and Ipswich and stuff that other people have had. We'll get easier games, so there. Manchester has spent 600 million on players since. I mean, they have, but I mean, we've also sold players at the same time as well. So it's like, I mean, I get it, but it's like, how much of if you look at how much Arsenal have spent, you look how much Chelsea have spent in the same duration, amount of money that Arsenal spends, the amount of money that City has spent, basically every top 6 or 7 team. Like, because this is his 3rd season, so this is being 3rd window, you're like, it's kind of similar to what I expect. And that obviously doesn't include the players that they've sold to make money. So if you take away the players that are sold, it's probably what? Just over maybe like 150 mil a transfer window or a year, which for a top 6 club or United's revenue isn't the end of the world, I don't think. Yep, there's no excuses. There's no excuses for Eric anymore. There's none. He's got his players. There's no excuses now. There's none. I didn't want to see him go either, but there you go. We was lying attack inside to make Sancho move on. Sancho output. Well, I don't know. Yeah. I like I said, guys, I have my that's why this winner for me is a 7 out of 10, guys, because ultimately, yes, the midfield and the defense is better, but the depth, especially at left back and attacking, is worrying. Because as it stands now, our only forwards are an underperforming Marcus Rashford, Garnacho, Xerxes, an injury or beginning to be an injury point Højlund, and Ahmad. That's it, I think. I think we have 5 forwards. Yeah, Rashford, Garnacho, Xerxes, Højlund, and Ahmad. I'm sorry, and Anthony, which is 6, but Anthony's neither here nor there, so 6. That's not really inspiring, to be honest. It's really not. And out of those 6, you're thinking, well, you probably start Højlund when he comes back, and then for me, you got to play Garnacho and Ahmad. That's our best front 3. Anthony is, although he can defend well. Rashford is not in form, is not good, and Xerxes is still an enigma. Although I think he's an okay. So you could probably alternate Xerxes and Højlund definitely. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, was he still waiting for him? Let me just send a message. 2 seconds. Okay. Okay. Hag has plenty of, so yeah, get your comments and get your questions in. So like I said, Tom is just having a phone call chat, so he will be back to take your translated question. And in fact, obviously this is United, but let's also talk about some of the other transfer deals that are going on. I mean, I think Osimhen, obviously we talked about. It looks like in fact, let me just have a look. It looks like Raheem Sterling has gone to Arsenal. So that's happened, I think. And then yeah, it looks, what else is that? Oh, okay. Apparently, just obviously a few Stuttgart have agreeing a loan deal for Trevor Shabala. It's fair enough. Oh, was that you, Tom?
Hello?
Oh, Tom, yep, can hear you.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
back.
Cool. I think Matt might have a question. Let me go back up. Oh yeah, it's just this one. Do you think, Tom? Do you think Ineos will be active in the January transfer window?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Just based upon the way that they've manoeuvred the ugarte deal. Obviously, the sort of structure of it didn't end up coming out to George Mendes' proposal, because the money that they got from McTominay in the end, they ended up getting all of the money that they wanted originally up front from Napoli, and then they've ended up just paying 5 million in add-ons, but it's not based upon performance add-ons. It's based upon that they'll just pay the extra 5 in 12 months' time. That's the way that Napoli have done the deal towards United, so they've got a better end of the deal there. Effectively, with it, it meant that they could change the terms for Ugarte so that they could just buy him straight away now. So there's no messing about it that it has to affect next year's summer budget. So in terms of manoeuvrability and being able to be active in January, effectively, if they want to buy a player in January, it will just mean that it will come out of next summer's budget. That's it. But if they think that that player will make that much of a difference, and they have to sign that player in January to make sure that they get them then, because in the summer market, you have, you might target a player, there'll be 5 or 6 clubs that will want that player, or that will try very hard to get that player. Speak to his camp, speak to his agent, speak to the club, and you've got a massive market that you have to navigate through all these other clubs. United aren't afraid to do that, but if there's an easier way that you can do it and you can just sign a player in January, then they're going to do it. The Bruno Fernandes thing is the best example I could use. They signed him in a January window, but the following summer, there was Barcelona, Spurs. Who else was there? I think there was Manchester City that was looking at another midfielder at that time, and I think it was Bayern Munich as well. There was a couple of clubs anyway that was looking at midfielders, and Bruno Fernandes was high on the list of a lot of top European clubs at that time. But Manchester United, they needed a creative player, they needed a creative midfielder. Bruno Fernandes was their top target, and they realised and they knew that all these other clubs were planning on having a bidding war to try and get him the following summer. So they bought him a window early. It meant that it come out of the summer budget, but they was going to end up trying to buy him anyway. But it just meant that they definitely would get him ahead of all the other clubs in January. But I've always said this about January anyway. January transfer windows are a seller's market. They're not a buying market. So if United want to maybe offload maybe a couple more of those players that we've just been saying about, then there's definitely an opportunity to do it. But it'll probably be more based upon loans or loan with options or obligations to buy at the end of the season. But I'd be very surprised if they went for any sort of high profile names. But again, you don't know what happens if they have an injury crisis again. God forbid, touch wood. They might have to dive into that loan market. But at least it means that there is those options there for them to use if they want to be active in the market. They can do now,
Mm.
and they've
No,
got smart recruiters in place who can get better deals for them in the end. But
no, that makes sense, Tom. That makes sense. Thanks for that. And hope that addressed your question, Matt. I don't know whether there's any other question from Tom, but let's have a look. Man says, where do you see United in the table by Christmas? It's a good question, but it's so competitive. I mean, it's difficult because there's only the transfer window is closed. There's only been a handful of games, but I mean, regardless of the United purchases, I still don't see Manchester United ahead of City or Arsenal. Liverpool will be interesting to see where they are, but Liverpool look good. Chelsea with their attack look far better than Manchester United. We've obviously seen Brighton have beaten us already. Villa, look okay. So if I'm honest, as much as all the signs have been good, the big thing I've always said is that I just think the United are toothless in attack. We don't have the quality. There's a left back issue, fullback issue, but we don't have the quality in attack. We're not scoring enough goals. We're not creating enough goals. So because of that, I still think United are going to struggle to get to top 4. And I think at Christmas, I wouldn't be surprised if United is sitting around 6th place, maybe 7th, but possibly 6th, because I don't think we'll lose games as much. Brian was a bit unlucky, to be honest. We should have at least gotten a point there. But
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think probably where even last season where it went wrong was a lot of those games that they lost, they could have ended up drawing. A lot of those games that they did lose, and that 1 point. So let's start with I think they ended up losing 13 games. Was it last season, or was it 12? Something like that. Anyway, it was double digits. If you take maybe 6 or 7 of them, and you put them into draws, which a lot of those games were only won by a goal or whatnot. If you take those 6 points and you put them on United's totalings for last season, it puts them either in the top 4 or basically on the same points, just they would have missed out by goal difference. But those points that in those draws make a season look so much better than it actually was, inevitably, on the tabling. It's, for example, like the Brighton game. If they couldn't win the game in the last 20 minutes when they got to 80 minutes, just make sure you don't lose it. It's probably the better point that you could make. Brighton's not an easy place to go to for any team. The title challenges in Liverpool in the last couple of seasons, Arsenal, City, they don't make it easy work when you go to Brighton. It's not easy work. It's a tough game. It's a tough grind to go for a lot of clubs. Villa Park's another one for Arsenal. They've already got over that stumbling block already. The same place where City had stumbled at last season. So there's a couple of clubs where it's better to not lose the game than try win it, then going out of our gun-ho to win it, and then you end up losing it anyway. It's better to have 1 point on the board than have none from a game. That's the better way that you can probably look at it. But if they turn a lot of those losses last season into draws, then they'll have a lot more success of a season. But the management for the Brighton game, I think, was a little bit questionable, especially towards the last minute of that game. If they would have held out and maybe didn't all shift as a team to one side of the pitch, you might have got a point out of the game. But the standings are very clear. United need to be able to see games out either when they're winning or see them out so they don't end up losing the game. And that's, I think, been the even probably for the whole 3 years that Ten Hag has been here, I think that's been probably the biggest issue. Probably maybe even in front of or behind in whatever people's opinions are. In you don't score enough goals. That's probably up there, is that they just can't see games out. But it's one of those it's one of those things. But if they turn a lot of these losses into draws, they'll be up there, Man United. They will be. But again, Liverpool, have they really been tested against top teams, top opposition yet? Not really. No. Chelsea, we saw when they come up against a Class A side in City that's been doing this in and out for years. they come unstuck. What they're going to do when they play teams like Villa, Brighton, who know what they're doing. They're a proper team with a system. Are they going to struggle? Are they not? You know what? It's one of those questions that you're going to have to look at. And United are going to have the same problem, but it's about how can you better manage games. And at the moment, the teams around him, like Postecoglou at Spurs, even Maresca, to his credit, at Chelsea, when he looked at the City game, he thought, okay, I can't win this game when I'm 2-0 down and City are playing this super-sized system, and I'm almost trying to envisage that and try and build that. I can't win the game, so let's not lose it by 4 or 5 trying to win a game that's a lost cause. Let's just manage the game out and we'll go again next week. But the difference is we've not got a -5 on the goal difference. We've only got a -2. And the next week they went and won 6-2. They've got +4 goal difference now. And goal difference in the last couple of seasons has made a massive difference, really, to a lot of clubs, whether they've got anywhere, they've got top 4, Europa League, even Europe. So it's one of those pointers where you have to look at it with Ten Hag and you have to say he has to get he has to manage a lot of these games a lot better this season, either seeing them out or holding on and winning. And if he doesn't, that's probably where his head might be on the chopping block, really.
Indeed. Right, last 5 minutes, guys, because I've got to go to work soon. So, but this has been obviously a good transfer stream, and thanks, guys, for so much going in. Make sure that you smash the like button if you're new. Rob says, so get your last question for last 5 minutes. We'll just begin to round things up. Rob says, G, will be interesting to see how these new players make a difference in the team. I think it will. And like I said, I think with the Europa League, we've got the opportunity to at least let some of those young players just integrate. So it is a whole new Manchester United in a sense. 89s, keep hitting it, guys. And big up Eddie. Have a good sleep, man. It is actually getting late in the UK. It's close to midnight, but I've got my midnight job soon, so I'm gonna have to bounce in a second. But thanks for joining. Yeah, so I can just find out about Google about should it all be Martin? Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's there seems to be a bit of kerfuffle with that going on because obviously we signed them from Arsenal, probably not ideally, and they seem to think that we're screwing them over. So I'll stay tuned with that, but I'm sure there'll be a resolution there. Okay, was there any other questions or statements? If it's not like and see, so I guess final thoughts, Tom. Final question. So how long? Well, it's officially he's gone to Saudi now. I'm not sure what it said on what's the contract, but yeah, he's officially gone to Saudi now. So no way Manchester United can get him. What was I gonna say? Unless as was that the contract? As in, was it how long is his Saudi contract or his Brentford contract? Because he's definitely gone to Saudi now.
Yeah. If you're on about his Saudi Arabian contract, as far as I'm aware, it's over 3 years.
So I mean, he's still what? He's 28. I mean, that's still okay for a striker, to be honest. And as we saw, to be honest, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Saudi, if people go sort of get your career to die." But to be honest, if the contract is good and you're still in your peak, then why not? Because we saw with Kante in the Euros that Kante's fitness was fantastic. So certainly, and they was able to keep up with everybody. So certainly from a fitness point of view, or maybe that's just Kante, I don't know, but still, like, you still got people playing in the Saudi League and they're still able to play for the national teams, no problem. So if I'm Tony, fine, okay, get your bag for 2 or 3 years, whatever is in Saudi. And then at 31, you're still, Kane is playing at 31 plus. You can still come back to Europe and play for a decent European team, even a Premier League team, if you're doing well and keeping yourself fit. So, yeah, I don't think it's not like the MLS. I don't think the Saudi League is like the MLS in the sense that the MLS literally was for footballers that are wanting to essentially from Europe, they're wanting to retire because of how far it is, and also just based on the pace of the game. Like, it's just not the same, So, and then of course, even just the league structure and format of like no relegation, you know. But anyway, yeah. So final question for Tom, so before I go, is that do you think that? So how do you think Ineos feel about this whole transfer window, and do you think that they will feel that they have supported Ten Hag, and so as a result, they expect Ten Hag to deliver this season?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't inject. I mean, if we total it up, you know, Lenny Euro, the initial figures come up to around 40. They've paid 40 million up front. Delete is pretty much similar, so there's 80. Mazraoui was shy of 20. So 100 on those three. You've got Ugarte in there, which they've paid 40 up front on. So 140 there, and then Xerxes they've paid all up in they paid it in installments, but I think the initial payment's 20. So all in all, they've invested about 160 to 180 million pounds in the guy, but they've sold players for I think over the odds of 111. That's not including the Sancho money either at the moment. But overall, they've had a net spend of around 60, 70 million pounds, which for Manchester United is a lot better than what they've done in recent years, because they used to sign they used to pay the 180, they'd barely make 20 million back. That's where the issues have been. So in terms of a net spend, they're in negative 70, but they've still been able to improve a lot of the squad. And the difference in factor is with Sancho, you don't have to pay him 300 grand a week because he's not going to be your problem in 12 months' time. Because Chelsea are obligated to buy him for the price that is agreed. So you don't have to pay that money to him anymore. You don't have to pay the money to a lot of the other players that have left this football club as well. Because for every one superstar player like Sancho who's on maybe 300 grand a week, 4 or 5 players who are on maybe 50, 60 grand a week each that they've sold, like your Kouambalas, your McTominays, that adds up to the same money that Sancho was on. So you've saved yourself a lot of wages money, and that's probably about, I would say, if I had to estimate, they've probably saved themselves between 10 to 20 million pounds on wages for the full year, which is very good. That's a player. So when you equate that also onto the books, they've had probably a net spend of 50 million. It's not bad, all in all. And effectively with Ineos, they'll look at this as a success. It's different. They've established themselves in the market as, we are here to be serious. We are here to play ball. We are not going to bow down to the demands of any football club. This Chelsea thing, people will look at it and think, oh, you know, they've bowed down to Chelsea's demands. They're not going to get, you know, 40 million pounds for him. And this, as far as I'm aware, they've got an agreement in place where it's at 23 million at the moment, but the deal can go up to 30 million should he meet certain criterias, which might be appearances, goals. Manchester United are going to do it based more upon performance, because if he's a successful player at Chelsea and he scores so many goals, Manchester United have got a better deal for themselves. Where Chelsea could just not play him, or because they've got that many players, he might struggle to get a game or struggle to make appearances. So then they don't have to fork out the other money. It is a little bit of chess and a bit of, you know, Russian roulette in terms of finances. But look, at the end of the day, United, they've negotiated deals better. Or you could argue they've started to negotiate deals completely, because they didn't really used to do that. It used to be, put a bid in, okay, it's rejected. 2 days later, we'll put another bid in. 2 weeks later, we'll put another bid in. Okay, we're on deadline day. We haven't signed anybody. What was it again? 70 million pounds asking price. Okay, we'll pay it. And that's effectively how United have run in the window, really, in the last decade. But it's different now. Like, the Branthwaite deal can just show you that. He was their main player that they really, really wanted. And because he didn't fit the financial criteria, they said, no, we're going to go elsewhere then. And they've done that. They've proved the point of, we're not going to be messed about by clubs anymore. We are serious. We'll pay fair prices, but we are Manchester United. We are like every other football club. We want a good deal. And you're not going to rip Manchester United off like you have done for a decade now. So, all in all, the whole systemising of it, they've brought in a couple of young players, like, say, Kone, they just put on the screen, Kone, Tribiobi Martin, for the future. You've got first-team players now in Ugarte, the likes of your Delic, your Mazraouis. So, all in all, they've bought for the here and now, for the future. They've sold a couple of players, but the Sancho thing, what do people really expect? You're not going to get the you're not going to get the 70+ million pounds that you paid for him for 3-4 years ago. Ineos will look at this as it's what we've inherited, but we can limit. The only thing that we can do with this deal is we can limit the damage. That's all that they can do. You can judge that, but Ineos, the way that they'll say it to United fans is, you can judge us on the players that we buy. If we end up selling them later on down the line and we make losses on those players, that's where you can judge us. But don't judge us on players in context that we have nothing to do with. We're not miracle workers. If Jadon Sancho, this version of him, was at Chelsea or Manchester City, I promise you they would not be getting £70 million for him. As much as they're great selling clubs, they're not that great. The way that they will look at it again is we can sell them for estimate price, and that's it. So, all in all, they will look at it and say, we've negotiated better, we've got the players that we wanted, and primarily, we've given Erik ten Hag all the tools to succeed. Now the pressure is on. He has to deliver. He has got everything that he asked for when he first came in. A structure, a relationship with the hierarchy above him, player recruitment into the club that is authorised by him, but also with experts above him who are going to give him the best advice they can, even if it means that they clash. He wants to clash with people because it's for the better of him and the football club. And finally of all, Ineos will look at it as, we've made financial brilliant. We've done quite well financially. We've only spent £50 million net. That's good.
True. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. So thanks for Tom. Just to Tom, can you talk about kind of, we actually talked a bit about him briefly in the, I think, midway through this, so probably about 40 minutes in, but we can just do a brief summary because we do have to wrap up the show now. But in summary, in summary, and Tommy can sort of summarize, essentially, like in a sense, yes, he is for the first team. But Tom, could you just do a quick summary of the Kone situation, just for the betterment of atonement?
Yeah, well, pretty much it's that they've signed this kid from the African leagues. They've looked at a lot of the clubs in and around Europe who are doing the same thing that United are. They scout players, they look at players, they almost play blackjack and gamble and say, should we take a £5 million hit and see if we can turn this player into a £100 million player in maybe 4 years, and that's the project. But the difference is United aren't like how Brighton would do it. Brighton would sign this player for £5 million, put him into the youth academy first. They would then step him into the first team when he's adapted, climatised to the country, the surroundings, the culture, and work with the manager first and foremost on where he can be best placed within the squad and the system that they work in. And then that's where they then get their money back later down the line. But with United signing Kone, they're signing him to bring him into the academy to let him settle in. People have to remember this. He's coming from Africa. He has not been to Europe before. He's never been outside of Africa, as far as I'm aware, from what I understand. He's coming into a different culture, a different atmosphere. And it's not just that he's coming into a different culture in England. He's probably never been outside of Africa, apart from when he's played competitional football. So the fact of that this kid, and I have to stress this, he is still a kid. He's not, 26 years old and he's coming over. He is a kid. He's pretty much like what you would get from South America, where you sign what they did with Palestri a couple of years ago. He's an under 18-year-old kid who is coming to a different league, a different culture, a different language. He needs time to adapt. And we say this about experienced players, that you give them a little bit of time to embed and settle in. Well, at least they've played at high-level football in European competitions. This kid hasn't, so he's going to need a little bit of time. So upon then, that's when you'll probably maybe get to January, and then they'll make an assessment of him and say, okay, we put him in first-team training and stuff. How's he doing, Eric? And, you know, are you impressed with him? Do you like him? You know, do you feel like we need to develop him elsewhere? Maybe put him in the Championship and, you know, bulk him up a little bit so it's a bit rough and tough for him. You know, do we put him in a technical league? Do we try and get him alone to Spain, make him a technical player? What should we do with him? But all that they know is that a lot of clubs would have took a gamble on this kid, and if they get the development right for him, in 4 to 5 years, he's £100 million player. That's how clubs project with these players. And Brighton, as we discussed just earlier on the stream anyway, when we said about with Kone, Brighton do this for a living, and they make £100 million from players. But that's just stabilising it. But the difference is United are now in that market where they will sign young talents, but they're not going to do what Chelsea did and spend. They have a budget of 100 million and they spend it on 10 wonder kids from, you know, Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, and hope maybe that out of those 10, 2 or 3 of them turn out to be superstars worth £100 million. United aren't doing that. They're just being calculated and saying, we'll take risks on players that we really believe in. And that's effectively where United are. But he will get first team training experience. But whether he becomes a first team player, I'd be very surprised. Maybe going on to next season. And, you know, listen, he might have a good job on a pre-season tour. So you might be able to see him a little bit better. But until that point, I'd be very surprised if he starts making first team appearances. But again, you had an injury crisis 12 months ago at Manchester United. So he might be called upon. He might get his Kobe Mino moment. You don't know. But no, from what I've heard anyway, he's a very grounded kid. He's a very talented football player, but he needs a little bit of time to adapt and acclimatise. And I think he commands that, and I think he deserves that, to be honest with you.
Thanks for that, Tom, man. I hope they answered the question atonement as well. Really appreciate it, guys. Got a bounce. So in fact, let me just quickly put this thing back on. Yep, guys, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Tom, obviously for coming on as well. Apologies, like I said, I've got to head to work soon. So, but yeah, we'll be back obviously on Sunday for the watch along. Tune in, guys. I'll obviously be I'll be posting my uploading a video for my reaction to the Europa League group and the member only for the Champions League as well. But obviously the weekend with the game, the Manchester United game, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. So yes, tune into that as well. Okay. Anyway, guys, remember if you use channel, like, subscribe to the studio. Follow us on Twitter. We are United. Make sure you like and subscribe. Take care, everyone, and cheers. Peace.
Peace.
Right, take care, Tom, buddy. Thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, get yourself to work and yeah,
Thanks.
stay safe.
Thanks, man. Peace. Take care.
Peace out, mate. Yeah, take care.